When everything falls silent, two lions appear. In the heart of the African savanna, where the wind whispers stories and birds observe from above battles rarely seen by humans, two lions emerged. No sound rises above their roar, and no shadow dares approach the arena of confrontation. One lion carries in his eyes the weight of the years, the wisdom of wars, and a past in which he fought every battle as if he already knew the outcome. The other, like a block of iron, knows no mercy and never hesitates to strike. A moment of silence, then a long gaze separating a bloody past from a future that spares only the victor. In this legendary encounter between Macolo and Dreadlocks, power meets wisdom, and all the lessons of the wild are summoned to decide a battle where there is no place for weakness. And everything we tell now leads to that moment, the showdown from which there is no escape. When all chapters are closed and a single chapter begins, where no one returns the same. So stay with us until the end, because the end will be the beginning of the greatest duel. Who is Macolo? The wise leader. Macolo was born in 1998 in a legendary pride known as Sparta. From a very young age, he faced existential battles with hyenas and fierce lions competing for resources. He wasn't just a lost cub, but a leader in the making, destined to defy the very laws of nature. Macolo wasn't only strong in body, but also in resolve. When he went missing as a cub and later returned to his pride to find rejection in the eyes of some, he didn't break. Instead, he turned isolation into training and exile into fuel until he became the pride's primary weapon. He led his first battles against the Split Rock and Milwaukee Lions while still in the prime of his youth. Then, he orchestrated an exceptional alliance of 5 brothers, forming the fiercest pride the Sabi Sands had ever known, the Mapogo Coalition. But the greatest challenge to his leadership wasn't his enemies, it was his own brothers. When Mr. T dared to challenge his authority, Macolo didn't back down. He fought him, defeated him, and proved that only those who have faced the hell of hard decisions are fit to lead. Macolo was more than a leader. He was a commander whose name carried weight. Who is Dreadlocks? The destructive force. In a ruthless world, where life belongs to those who strike first and destroy without remorse, Dreadlocks was born. This lion never sought leadership, nor did he care for attention. He was more like a hidden soldier, a silent war machine. But when he moved, nothing in his path survived. Dreadlocks was born into the Sparta pride between 2001 and 2002, in a harsh environment that shaped his body before it shaped his soul. From an early age, he was known for his massive frame and fangs like axes. Unlike Macolo, he wasn't interested in leadership. He was content being the executing hand, the crusher who finished the job, the terrifying force advancing in silence. Macolo was 2 years older, but Dreadlocks quickly proved his worth in combat. While other lions chased gazelles or buffaloes, he went after hippos and towering giraffes, as if death itself was his favorite opponent. Lions of the savannah, challenges and battles that forged legends. In the African savannah, leaders are not born. They are forged in fire. Battles, scarcity, and ever-present death are what shape true lions. Macolo grew up amid fierce competition from his cousins and under the watchful eyes of lionesses who showed no mercy to weak cubs. He found himself surrounded by enemies on all sides, lurking hyenas, rival lions vying for control, and even pride mates who rejected his return. He had no choice but to assert himself through intelligence, not just muscle. The savannah was his classroom, and his battles were his textbook. from which he emerged not only a fighter, but a wise lion who knew when to strike and when to wait. Dreadlocks, on the other hand, lived in a world that only believed in survival of the strongest. Older lions constantly tested him, and with each battle, he proved his body was a relentless fighting machine. Violence was his language, destruction his method. He didn't care whether he was smart enough to lead. He just wanted to be the opponent that even monsters feared at first glance. Both lived through hell, but each in their own way. Between one shaped by wisdom and another forged by steel, two legends emerged, ready for their final clash. Lessons from the savannah. What makes a leader? In the world of beasts, strength alone is not enough to make a leader. Leadership in the savannah isn't given to those who kill the most, but to those who know when to retreat and when to fight to the last breath. Macolo wasn't just a brave warrior. He was a leader who knew how to maintain balance in a pride torn by ambition. When the coalition fractured and the hearts of his brothers leaned toward conflict, Macolo stood against them all. He reasserted his dominance after a brutal battle with his brother, Mr. T, the lion known as the Devil. At that moment, he proved that a true leader does not back down, even from those he loves, because leadership sometimes means choosing between blood and tears. As for Dreadlocks, he was always on the front lines. He didn't care much for managing the coalition, but he was always present in the major battles, like a sword that precedes words. His bravery was undeniable, but it wasn't enough to create balance within the pride. And when conflicts intensified, Dreadlocks chose to stay with the leader, Macolo, because he understood that a true leader isn't the one who shouts the loudest, but the one whose voice is heard, even in silence. Those pivotal moments are what define the difference between raw power and wisdom. Macolo versus Dreadlocks, the moment of collision. Heavy steps shake the ground. Dreadlocks emerges from the trees like a moving wall, his muscles tense, his eyes burning with challenge. Every movement in his body is built to strike, to crush, to destroy. He doesn't just roar, he declares war. On the other side stands Macolo, still, unblinking, unmoving. His eyes move ahead of his body, watching, calculating, and waiting. Macolo doesn't need to show his strength. His strength is revealed in stillness. And here, the narrator's voice is heard. In this clash, strength alone is not enough. Dreadlocks will land the first blow, and it will be devastating. His muscles were made for destruction, and his attacks know no mercy. But now he faces someone who relies not on muscle, but on intelligence and timing. Macolo doesn't defeat his enemies with brute force, but with a plan. He will wait for the perfect moment to bring Dreadlocks down with a single decisive move. Yes, Macolo will be wounded, but in the end, he will win. Because wisdom always triumphs over violence, and the true leader knows how to end the fight. Psychological and tactical analysis of Macolo was not just a traditional leader driven by instinct. He was an exceptional mind inside a lion's body. His decisions weren't impulsive. They were built on precise observations of the terrain, the state of the enemy, and even the behavior of his brothers within the coalition. He tested the patience of the lions around him and assessed their reactions during tense moments to determine who belonged on the front line and who needed to be sidelined to preserve the coalition's balance. Psychologically, Macolo carried within him layers of tension born from losing his brothers in battles, or to humans. Yet he never allowed grief to distract him. He turned pain into a silent strength that grew stronger with every loss. His leadership was built on inspiration, not coercion. Lions followed him because they saw in him what they didn't see in others. a lion who never wavered in storms and never left the battlefield until he ensured everyone was safe. The dark side of Dreadlocks, when strength becomes a flaw. Despite his massive size and exceptional ferocity, Dreadlocks didn't always choose the smartest battles. He was often driven by reactions rather than strategy, frequently rushing in without thinking about the consequences. Many of the fights he engaged in were unnecessary, mere reflections of an internal anger that was never fully understood. At times, he lacked a broader vision, disrupting the coalition's formation with erratic solo actions. And when the coalition began to fall apart, Dreadlocks had no plan to preserve it. He retreated behind Macolo and became a follower after once being a terror. His physical strength remained, but his effectiveness as a leader, or even as a core part of the team, began to fade. In the end, his strength alone wasn't enough to prevent his fate from being sealed by a decision, not a blow. The power of alliances, and who made whom. You can't talk about Macolo and Dreadlocks without mentioning the coalition that brought them together, which formed a crucial part of their strength. The Macolo coalition wasn't just a group of strong lions. It was a complex structure of roles and responsibilities. Macolo was the intellectual backbone, while Dreadlocks was the hammer that struck when ordered. But who made whom? Did Macolo make the coalition, or did the coalition make Macolo? The clearest truth is that Macolo never needed anyone to prove his leadership. He was born in the heart of conflict and raised through war. Dreadlocks, despite his might, only truly emerged under the coalition's shadow. When Macolo dissolved, Macolo remained in the spotlight, leading, confronting, maneuvering, while Dreadlocks' aura gradually faded until his story ended in relative silence. Macolo x Dreadlocks. The end of comparison, the birth of a legend. Perhaps Dreadlocks was fiercer, and maybe his blows dropped enemies before they could flee. But in the world of the wild, and in the pages of history, only minds that led and souls that endured are remembered. Macolo was that soul. He led a pride that crushed everything in its path, but never allowed chaos to consume him. He fought enemies from outside, enemies from within, and even his own brothers when necessary. Dreadlocks? He was a beast, no doubt, but he didn't last until the end. And between those who fight to survive and those who plan to be remembered, the victor is always the one who knows how to read tomorrow's battlefield. In this comparison, in this battle, and in the hearts of all who followed their story, the true victor is Macolo.